These are big days for Looney Tunes, but not in a good way. First, the animated theatrical feature film The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, flopped. The apparent shelving of COYOTE versus ACME remains an open wound to many. And then, adding insult to injury, all the classic animated Looney Tunes shorts were pulled from Max. Why can't these Warner icons catch a break? Well, let's dive in and find out what went wrong. This video is sponsored by Incogni. The 2D animated feature The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, cost a mere $15 million to make, and you'd think there would be no way it could possibly flop with a production cost as modest as that. But alas, you'd be wrong, because it opened to just $5 million. Now, you might be thinking, but that's okay, the rest of the world will bail it out. Alas, that $5 million figure is the worldwide figure. The numbers here are so small that no one will be losing much over this, but still, by any conventional metric, that puts the movie solidly in flop territory, and more than that, it entirely justifies what Warner did to COYOTE versus ACME. We're about to get into that, and what went wrong here, but first, have you noticed how so many of the online ads you come across seem oddly personal to you? Well, there's a reason for that, and it doesn't stop with ads, because that's where the spam emails and maybe even automated robocalls begin, and it only gets worse from there. If you ever signed up for a newsletter, a website, or some other service, then chances are your data was resold without you ever agreeing to it. There's a shadow industry of data brokers aggregating, buying, and reselling personal data like your full name, email address, phone number, home address, SSN, shopping habits, online alias, employment history, financial information, and much, much more. And as valuable as that information may be for those trading in it, all you get out of it, of course, is spam, and even that is a best-case scenario. In the US in particular, your data may end up in public search sites, and health insurance companies are known to use some of that data as determinants of health, meaning your documented online activity may actually increase your rates. There is also the risk that your data sooner or later will be leaked in a data breach, where it's made freely available for outright criminals, putting you at additional risk for more targeted scams and even identity theft, where loans may be taken out in your name. The good news, though, is that no matter how they obtained it, you have the right to request that these data brokers delete the information they have about you. The bad news is that there are hundreds of them, and each and every one of them will try every trick to weasel out of deleting your data. And worse still, even if they do, there's nothing preventing them from collecting it again. The really good news then is that Incogni, this video sponsor, can take care of this for you. Incogni helps you protect your privacy and take your personal data off the market by reaching out to data brokers on your behalf, demand your personal data be removed, and plow through their objections as they come. And better still, they'll send repeat removal requests in case they should get a hold of your data again. And best of all, the whole process is automated. All you have to do is create an account, grant Incogni the right to work on your behalf, and kick back and relax while they do the work for you, keeping you up to date with the progress every step of the way. Since this video is sponsored by Incogni, we naturally have a deal for you. Use our code MIDNIGHT at the link in the description and you'll get 60% off an annual Incogni plan. So head down to the description and get your data protected now. With that, let's shift our attention back to Warner and the Looney Tunes. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, is actually the second movie to be made around the Looney Tunes IP in the last couple of years, though it is the only one to actually end up being released. The other movie, of course, was the notorious COYOTE vs. ACME, a live-action 2D animation hybrid that was completed and ready for release, before Warner decided to scrap the entire movie, Batgirl style, and seemingly claim a tax credit on the loss instead of ever releasing it. For those who don't remember it, that was the movie about Wile E. Coyote suing the ACME Corporation, as every contraption he ever got from them in his quest to hunt down the Roadrunner backfired or otherwise blew up in his face. Over the course of the movie, a touching friendship would develop between Wile E. Coyote and his lawyer, as they fight the movie's ultimate villain, the lawyer's former boss and current litigator aggressively defending ACME. And while this has not been disclosed to the public, spoiler alert, the man behind John Cena and ACME is Foghorn Leghorn. The movie was directed by Dave Green and written by James Gunn, Jeremy Slater and Sami Birch. It had a reported production budget of $70 million, and so far it has looked as though it will stay locked up in a USB memory stick or something like that in a lawyer's desk drawer forever, because in the end, Warner seemingly took a tax credit in return for it remaining unreleased. Many are quite annoyed with that, and very keen to blame David Zaslav for this, for he is widely regarded as the Orange Man Bad of Hollywood executives. An outsider of the movie business who came in and disrupted how they like to do things at Warner and in Hollywood in general, which no doubt motivated some of the bad press against him. However, there is a little bit more to the story than some headlines and pundits would have you believe. While there is a popular narrative that Zaslav pulled a Batgirl, that is, decided the movie could never be released because it was so subversive it would destroy the entire DC brand, that is not what happened with Coyote vs. ACME. No, what happened there was that following internal test screenings when the movie was completed in late 2023, the number crunchers decided that despite the talent and brands involved, the cost of not just making the movie, but giving it a full theatrical release with a worthwhile promotional campaign would be so expensive that they would never make their money back again. On the contrary, the feeling was that they would be much better off taking a tax credit and never releasing it, than increasing their exposure by giving it a theatrical release, which would yield them an even bigger loss. And remember, Zaslav came to Warner to turn the company around, not to carry on throwing good money after bad. Word of this got out though, which caused a major backlash among talent and agents, to which the Zaslav administration responded with opening the door for other studios to take it off their hands. Warner's number crunchers didn't believe in the movie, but they screened it for other studios, and if they believed in it, then Warner would agree to sell the movie to them. Their asking price was reported to be in the vicinity of $80 million, which makes sense. That would cover their expenditure and give them a symbolic profit on top of that, something they could use to justify the decision to their shareholders in the hypothetical event that someone else picked the movie up and made it a hit. Of course, that never happened. Amazon, Sony and Apple all reportedly saw the movie, but none of them made bids. Netflix and Paramount reportedly did make bids, but these were lowball bids that Warner could not accept, so they would be better off taking that tax credit. Hence, it would appear that the number crunchers at all the major studios were in agreement. Given the cost of making the movie for Warner, and therefore the cost of acquiring it for any other studio, plus the cost of advertising and releasing it, there was no way to make money on it. And so no other studio picked it up, even if they got to see it and had the opportunity to do so. Meaning it seemingly ended with Warner taking a tax credit and shelving it forever. We reported on this in live streams as it was going on, as my partner in crime, Tom Connors, had inside sources which kept us up to date before any of these stories hit the trades. And what these sources told him was that while the movie's main premise might have worked for an extended 15-minute short, it just did not work as a drawn-out 90-minute court drama. What is more, there was another Looney Tunes movie in development, and of the two, Coyote vs. ACME was widely considered the weaker outing. That means the studio considered the animated The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, to be the better Looney Tunes movie, and it just flopped. What does that say about which prospects Coyote vs. ACME would have had? It is noteworthy that while Warner believed in The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, more so than they did Coyote vs. ACME, they didn't believe in it any more than that they tried to sell that movie as well. Originally greenlit as a spin-off to the 2019 series of animated shorts Looney Tunes cartoons, the movie was set to be released on Max, until the restructuring in the aftermath of Zaslaw's takeover. At that point, the movie was offered to third parties, and in the fall of last year, Ketchup Entertainment picked up distribution rights. As tragic as it may be that a 2D animated movie like this flopped the way that it did, from a purely financial point of view, the Zaslaw regime made the right decision here, because as it stands, how the movie ends up performing is now Ketchup Entertainment's problem, not Warner's. While we do not know exactly how much Ketchup Entertainment paid Warner for the rights, chances are it covered the entirety of Warner's outlay in making the movie. Meaning, thanks to Zaslaw, Warner likely made a very tiny profit on the day the Earth blew up, even if it by any conventional metric flopped in theaters, while they were able to mitigate the losses all the studios tacitly agreed they would have incurred on COYOTE vs. ACME by seemingly taking a tax credit instead. Many will of course hate on Zaslaw for making decisions that prevents the audience from seeing the alleged creative genius of Batgirl and COYOTE vs. ACME, but honestly, one should perhaps question if the real problem here was greenlighting these movies that there clearly was no market for in the first place. And remember, those greenlighting decisions were made by the previous administration, which Zaslaw was brought in to save the shareholders from. And we have another line of evidence to support the notion that the market simply wasn't asking for Looney Tunes right now.
Well, at least we're good.
Oh boy. Oh, and I almost forgot. All of the tunes will be deleted, so...
Look, Mac, just what's going on around here? Let's get organized,
The sad truth is that while many of a certain age will have grown up with the classic Looney Tunes, for many decades now, Warner have let these characters languish and fall out of the public consciousness. The last time there was a major Looney Tunes themed hit was Space Jam, way back in 1996. That is almost 3 decades ago. To put that into context, we are as far removed in time from Space Jam as Space Jam was from Batman the series featuring Adam West and the original Star Trek. Instead of taking advantage of the Space Jam blitz, Warner let Looney Tunes languish for 7 years until Looney Tunes Back in Action back in 2003, and then they let it languish again for almost 2 decades until Space Jam 2 back in 2021, with only sporadic TV and streaming series and specials in between. That is not how you maintain a brand, and then it's no wonder that they have removed the classic Looney Tunes cartoons the way that they did from Max, because it simply wasn't worth the cost of the bandwidth to keep them there. According to Deadline, a representative from Max confirmed that removing the original Looney Tunes animated shorts is a part of the streaming service's new objective to prioritize adult and family programming. As a result, children's shows and movies are no longer a prime concern for Max and Warner Brothers. The media that is made for a younger audience reportedly doesn't perform well on the streaming platform, meaning Max is prioritizing more adult and family films and TV series going forward. That is the official spin, and I emphasize spin, because the original Looney Tunes shorts weren't necessarily for children per se. Disney's Silly Symphonies were for children, and Warner's initial Merry Melodies were the edgier response to them, and a way to reuse Warner's music library, so kind of like the music videos of the day, and the Looney Tunes were spun off from that. While these shorts were certainly child-friendly at the time of their release, at least for the most part, there are some exceptions, the primary audience today are adult collectors, so in this day and age, they should rightfully be considered as adult and family programming, which is what they say they want to focus on. That nitpick aside, the real problem here is that whatever you call them, no one is watching them. The only reason the removal of these classics got any attention was that it coincided with the day the Earth blew up, flopping in theaters. There are actually 2 lessons to be learned from this. First, Looney Tunes is a perfect example of brand management gone wrong, because it is a brand that has been allowed to languish, which is a shame. Second, it is yet another reminder of the perils of streaming. Your favorite content can be removed at any time, either because some license expires, or in this case, that the OG owner doesn't think it's worth the bandwidth costs to keep your favorite content up and available. Luckily, a very good chunk of the classic Looney Tunes catalog is available on physical media and more is on the way, and that may be the only way to preserve these classics. I wouldn't hold my breath for it, but here's to hoping that somewhere in Warner, someone gets the idea that Looney Tunes is a studio institution it might be worthwhile to make viable again, and that what they've been doing these past 3 decades hasn't been working, so maybe try something new.
This is a Looney Tunes news flash.
Throughout this video, you might have noticed I kept on saying that Warner had seemingly made the decision to take a tax credit instead of releasing COYOTE vs. ACME, and I stressed seemingly, because the conventional wisdom was that they must have taken that tax credit a long time ago, as there were no serious bidders when Warner were actively trying to offload the movie. However, in the aftermath of The Day the Earth Blew Up, by any conventional metric flopping, the trades are reporting that Ketchup Entertainment, the company which picked up distribution rights for that movie, are also in talks with Warner about acquiring COYOTE vs. ACME from them as well, for a reported $50 million. Less than what Warner initially wanted, but I guess a $50 million cash transfer is better than a $30 million tax credit. What else Ketchup Entertainment gets to make it worth their while, or if they got some kind of the producers-like scheme going on, has not yet been disclosed to the public. Well, my point about the Looney Tunes needing better brand management still stands. It looks as though there is a chance COYOTE vs. ACME might still see the light of day. The time of miracles apparently isn't over. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. And before you go, don't forget to protect your personal data with Incogni. Use our code MIDNIGHT at the link in the description and you'll get 60% off an annual Incogni plan.
That's all, folks.